Donc, aujourd'hui, trigger warnings fail to help and may even harm. APS, Association for Psychological Science. So, what it says is really interesting. So, there's a few studies that were done. For some, traumatic events leave deep psychological scars that can resurface many years later as renewed emotional pain or unwanted memories. In an effort to spare survivors reminders of past trauma, some institutions and individuals provide so-called trigger warnings, alerts that upcoming program or text may contain unsettling content. Recently, however, a growing body of research has called into question the effectiveness of trigger warnings. A new study published in the Journal of Clinical Psychological Science shines additional light on this ongoing debate and finds that trigger warnings offer little to no help in avoiding painful memories, and perhaps are even harmful for the survivors of past emotional trauma. Researchers discovered that trigger warnings seem to increase the extent to which people see trauma as essential to their identity, which can worsen their impact of post-traumatic stress disorder in the long run. Here's a study. Jones and his colleagues conducted a randomized experiment among two groups of people who had experienced a serious trauma in the past. Both groups read a series of literature passages. One group received trigger warnings prior to distressing passages, while the other did not. Participants rated their emotions after reading each passage and also completed a series of questionnaires at the end. Overall, the researchers found that little statistical differences in the reactions of both groups. Neither seemed to be spared emotional impact of reading the text. Whether trigger warnings are explicitly harmful was less clear, though Jones and his colleagues did find that evidence that trigger warnings increased the belief that their trauma is an essential part of a survivor's life story, which research has shown is counter-therapeutic. So, essentially what they're saying is, let's say we're having discussions, and you give a trigger warning, then they're transported right back to their trauma before the conversation has even happened. And therefore, any conversation that they have as a result is filtered through that lens. So, of course, you're going to be more important. It's like saying, black people, just letting you know, we're going to be discussing this topic. It's like, well, now I'm being reminded of my racial identity, or I'm being reminded of my Ethiopianness if you keep mentioning it before every time.
That's counterproductive.
Exactly. So it's important to know this stuff because we've adopted a lot of new policies, a lot of new ideas without actually knowing whether or not they work or they're efficient. They sound great in theory. In theory, it sounds good to let people know beforehand that something triggering may be coming. The problem is we found that it actually makes things worse. So now we have to rethink these things. And this is what happens when you're quick to want to make change because people are suffering. Understand, people are suffering. We need to improve things. But how you improve things matters just as much as the intent. You understand what I'm saying? Right? Like, you can want to help somebody. You just reach for the nearest pot. You throw it on them because you think it's cold water. Bitch, it's oil. They're dead. You feel me? Now, with these trigger warnings, we've convinced people that their trauma, their terrible experiences, is who they are. It defines them at all times. And I could honestly say that I've had an experience like that for me personally. And it made me color every experience through that lens. It made me have negative interactions because I was already coming from it from like, this traumatic experience is being reflected in these people. That's how that was the prism through which I saw everything. So it's important for us to look at the stuff and be like, okay, maybe this is not sensible. Maybe I'm not doing everyone a service. And also for the people who expect trigger warnings, also understand maybe this is not having the intended effect that I wanted it to. And I need to stop asking for them all the time. I still think it's appropriate for some topics because then if the person wants to, they can just leave. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to give a trigger warning if I'm showing something graphic or whatever. You can choose to opt out. But what's important to note is that trigger warning doesn't soften the blow of whatever it is you're about to witness.
No, it doesn't soften the blow, but I believe that the trigger warning is really just for me. It's not for you, it's for me. Trigger warning. Oh my God! Hey! Hey! Hey!
There you go. That's good.
Fucking warned you. Show business if you hear. That was a lot.
Cover your ass.
Cover my ass.
I think most professors do it for that reason.
It's really to cover my ass. Trigger warning. So this is another. Hey! Shut up! I warned you. You stayed.
You know, the problem with that is in a society built on empathy and understanding victims, even that may not be enough.
I understand.
Over half of professors say they use trigger warnings right now. Over the past decade, there's been extensive debate on the appropriateness of trigger warnings, particularly in an academic environment where they have been accused of promoting censorship. Other critics have suggested that trigger warnings may create an unrealistic bubble free from negative thoughts, which can prepare students for life beyond academia.
Do you mean safe space?
Yes. I have a friend of mine who teaches at a really prestigious school.
Okay.
Really, really close. One thing that she encounters a lot, she gave like reading assignments to her students. So one of them involved like Japanese history before the like last 200 years. And the students, like some of them complained. And she's like, what do you guys complain about? She's like, there's some like really disgusting stuff that happened. And they complained and they got upset. So she scrapped that section. But in my head, I'm thinking like, how can you ever internalize what's happened throughout history if you're not going to accept that there's some darkness out there?
Yeah.
I mean, the mere fact that you get to say trigger warning is proof of the progress we've made and the privilege that you're living.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to understand what was there before. That's what history is. You know what I'm saying? So it affects people academically in the workplace as well.
I don't want to work in a freaking as a history teacher. All right, class.
I'd probably hand you a gun so you could just fire it off.
They were fuck. They were gonna talk about people that were
Can you describe their bodily functions?
Jesus Christ.
People that can or can't get pregnant. Yeah.
No, because if I say people that can get pregnant, how did they get pregnant? And I'm up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
trigger warning. And he just went off himself.
What are your thoughts?
I just want to cover my ass.
Yeah.
That's really that. That's why I've been doing this. I'm not thinking about all of that. I'm thinking about them. I'm gonna go through the story. Trigger warning. Okay, you're warned. There's gonna be some fucked up shit, and after that. But yeah, it's very interesting the fact that what you said about we are telling them that they are that trauma for the rest of their life. It's exactly what we're doing. So we can't remind them of anything that's around that because it reminds them of what happened and who they are. So yeah.
Imagine we start this video and all I say is trigger warnings. No title, no nothing.
No.
I just say trigger warning.
Yeah.
This may be traumatic to you. What do you start thinking about?
Every fucking trauma that I've been through.
So now,
And then imagine this shit was not even about me.
No.
It was about a kid getting hurt, which
Yes.
is funny. And it has nothing,
But
and
you
then
know what
I'm
saying?
triggered.
Right, because you're like, well, what do I have to be triggered about? What can I be triggered? And so you start to think about the trigger shit that you had,
Yeah.
right?
And when it was not even about me. That's crazy.
It's like when people start a sentence and say, I don't want to be racist. You immediately go like, this is going to be the most shit I heard all week. So, anyways, I think
like my buddy Eddie King says in the comedy bit, it's like whenever someone says I'm not racist, but it's never like I'm not racist, but I hate cookies. It's never that.
No.
It's never that. It's really you're about to go in.
Yeah.
You're about to and
How
I'm
do
thinking
black people's noses suck up so much oxygen? No, I'm just curious. And when you use the spoon, how do you stop yourself from swallowing the whole thing with your big lips? Yeah.
I'm not but
Yes. But anyways, I digress. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. We want to hear from you.
it really sounds like you heard that shit before. How do you suck up so much oxygen?
Yeah.
God